The assassination of President John F. Kennedy on November 22nd, 1963 in Dallas, Texas, was one of the biggest tragedies in American history. The reason for President Kennedy being in Texas that day was to rally up some much-needed votes to win Texas. Texas was a vital state in winning his re-election. So President Kennedy is in Fort Worth, Texas earlier that morning. He's at a hotel. He's getting ready for the day events there. He then takes a flight via Air Force One from Fort Worth, Texas to Dallas, Texas. He's with his wife, Jacqueline Kennedy. She's a very popular woman at that time, and having her next to him would have helped rally some votes, or so he felt. So when they arrive in Dallas, they are picked up by a 1961 armored Lincoln convertible, which they had used to go from the airport to his destination, where he'd be giving a speech and a luncheon that he'd be attending that day. Again, President Kennedy, knowing how well his wife was liked, thought that she should be visible during that trip through downtown Dallas. They actually had three options to choose for the convertible. They could have chose a canvas top, or they could have chose a plastic top, or the third and safest option would have been a metal top. That would have been able to deflect a bullet. But they chose to go without a top at all on the vehicle. He thought it would be best that if they could be seen by the public. So as they made their way through Dallas, there was 12 blocks through downtown Dallas completely blocked off, 8 to 10 rows of people crowded on either side of the street, waiting to get a glimpse of the president. As they approached downtown, President Kennedy and Jacqueline Kennedy were sitting on the back of the vehicle. They were waving to the crowd. There was children all over the place, a bunch of people. And from the information I found, at around 12:22, the limo is completely downtown. And at around 12:30, the vehicle actually slows down from 20 miles an hour to 10 to 15 miles per hour. The first shot is fired. It completely misses. And then the driver of the car, actually hearing the shot, slows the vehicle down even more. He's probably trying to figure out what's going on. The second shot's fired. The second shot hits President Kennedy in the back of his neck, bruises his lungs, rips his windpipe, and exits his throat. That shot should have knocked him down. It should have even knocked him out of the vehicle potentially. But President Kennedy suffered from chronic disc disease. He had back issues, so he wore a back brace. So when he got hit with that first bullet, the back brace actually supported him. It held him in place. And since the vehicle slowed down even more once President Kennedy got shot, he was just like a sitting duck out there. The third shot hit President Kennedy in the head, which ultimately killed him. That was a fatal shot. President Kennedy was killed. There was a lot of theories as to who killed him. There was the conspiracy theory. The CIA had some involvement. There was the communist theory that maybe Castro had something to do with it. President Kennedy was well known for his dealing with the nuclear missile crisis. So ultimately, nobody really knows who killed President Kennedy. Lee Harvey Oswald was charged with killing President Kennedy, but he never stood trial. He was killed 2 days after the assassination of President Kennedy by Jack Ruby, a local business owner who killed Oswald while he was being transported to the county jail. And Ruby was ultimately charged with the murder of Oswald and sentenced to death. So ultimately, in the end, there's theories that go all over the place surrounding the assassination of President Kennedy. He was one of the most popular presidents in American history. The one thing that I do know is that, he was a good man, and we'd be living a completely different world if he had survived. Who knows where we'd be today.